On this episode of the iFilmmaker podcast, we're talking about hyperlapsing with Marc Donahue. Welcome back to another episode of the iFilmmaker podcast. My name is Ariel Martinez. So on this episode, I am talking with Marc about his work, how he got started, how he goes about doing his hyperlapses, and surprisingly to me, he says that it's easy. So we're going to see exactly how easy this is. I don't see that it's easy, but it's awesome what you can do with a lot of practice. So we're going to go into that. We're going to go into his work, how he goes about it, and a few tips and tricks on how you can get started with hyperlapsing as well. As always, I will be putting links to everything that we talk about on the show notes for this episode. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm actually going to be playing Marc's videos while he's talking, because we do a lot of referencing to some pieces that he does and some specific incredible shots. Like, how do you get a mouth moving to music that's playing in normal speed, but in hyperlapse? That's just, it sounds crazy. So we're going to be showing you all that stuff. So if you're not watching this on YouTube, you could be missing out. So make sure you check that out and subscribe while you're at it. Anyways, without further ado, here is my conversation with Marc Donahue. Marc Donahue, thank you so much for coming on the iFilmmaker podcast. I'm glad you're here, buddy.
Yeah, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Great. So I guess we can start off by letting us know a little bit about your introduction into video, how you got started, and kind of what led you down that path.
Yeah. So I picked up a camera right before I went to college, and I used to skateboard a lot. So in college, I would, set up some rails and some ramps and film my buddies and I skateboarding. So that's how I started. And I was down in Santa Barbara going to school, and I lived like right on the beach on this cliff. So I had like this wonderful view of like the sunsets and people surfing every day. So the skateboarding and the time lapsing kind of came from that, watching the sun go down. And I would film, like at that time, I would have to like record video and speed it up. It wasn't like photos and image sequences. So it was kind of back in the day. It's pretty cool.
And how long ago was this?
That was in 2000. So yeah. Yeah.
Holy cow. It's 21 years ago, man.
Yeah, the size of the videos were like 320 by 240. They're so tiny.
HD wasn't a thing back then.
No.
Oh my!
It would take forever to render out stuff. It was just like, oh my Lord.
Now that's considered low-level proxy, not just regular proxy. That's low-level proxy.
Yeah.
Oh
it's
man,
pretty insane.
So what was it about the time lapses that sort of fascinated you? Because obviously you have a fascination with time lapsing, hyperlapsing. That's a big scope of your work, at least that I've seen.
I don't know. I think it was just watching these sunsets, and I just started speeding stuff up, and it just became like super awesome to watch, and all these people around me were loving it. So I found like a passion for it. Yeah.
Did you ever think about tapping into other parts, commercial, like us regular video makers do? Did you ever think about going?
Yeah, I do a lot of that too.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've done, like a Subaru commercial, like a Range Rover commercial, worked a lot with GoPro. I've made some creative videos that I kind of had a storyline to, and they're kind of trippy, introducing my hyperlapse skills and time lapse, and a thing we call lyric lapsing, where I would sync the mouth movements to like a hyperlapse / time lapse. So we would sync the mouth of my subject, the person in the film, to the music.
So that is one of the things that has fascinated me the most out of your work, which is a great kind of transition into hyperlapsing. How the heck does that work? Uh, I've seen that, and I've been following your work for years now. I think my introduction to your work was maybe the video before. Was it I Left My Heart in San Francisco? Um,
Yeah.
so the video before
Uh,
that, I don't remember the name of it, but I remember
Dream Music Part 2.
yes, that.
Yeah.
That was so mesmerizing to me. And the thing that I kept looking at was his lips. This is a hyperlapse, but his lips are moving to the music. How is that possible outside of it's just I can't even in my head think of a creative way to make something like that happen. Uh,
Yeah.
can you explain that to me?
When it was funny, like when we finally got that down, you should have seen our faces. We were like jumping up and down, like screaming because it was we were like, what did we just do? Yeah, so so what I did, I teamed up with one of my friends, Drew Roulette. He's an artist, and I did some research on cartoon mouths, and you know how many different mouths do they have to make a cartoon talk? So I figured it out, and it was like just 10 mouth movements to say like any word you want. So my friend drew out like every different mouth, and then I would use those, and find something to pair it with and do some test runs, and it worked out perfectly.
Wow.
I could send you one of the tests that I did, and it shows like his drawings and what each mouth, like every letter that each mouth goes with. It's all written on the paper.
Wow.
It's pretty
That
crazy. Yeah.
how many different I guess mouth positions are there?
10.
Holy
10 and
cow.
then yeah, 10 and then a resting face. So really 11. But
So you have these 10 options to put the mouths in different positions where you could basically now say anything that is on the
yeah.
script.
Yeah, everything.
That's
It's pretty
incredible.
crazy.
That is
Yeah, so we would number it out. I went down the whole timeline of the music and just did 1 7 6 3 1 10, for every single frame. So I did a lot of like pre-production to get that done. And then when we shot it, it just kind of flowed. We had a couple people making sure I was on point and everything.
how much practice does something like that take? I can't imagine you didn't do it on the first try.
It only took like a couple test runs to kind of pair it up. It kind of came naturally. It wasn't that hard. Once I did it a couple times, then we got rolling on it. That's why it's called Dream Music Part 2, because there's a Part 1, which was more of a test run.
So all these hyperlapse videos are done. You're obvious. Not, I don't want to say obviously because I don't want to presume to know how you do this. You're using stills or video.
Yeah,
Okay.
stills. Just because you could edit them a lot better.
Right. Right.
Um, and and then I just motion track everything, so it's all stable.
Is the pre-production on something like that kind of similar to a regular video, or are there
Yeah.
different variables?
No, it's just like a regular video. Some of it is video, but I would like speed it up or something, or do some trippy effect to it.
Yeah, it's all trippy.
Yeah.
It's all very very trippy. So that's amazing. The hyperlapse videos always intrigue me, and every time I think of those kinds of videos, I always think of your videos. To me, it begs the question: how big is the market for videos like that? Like, how much work have you been
Um,
able to acquire, like paid work to do stuff like that?
a lot. It's more time lapse, and then like clients want time lapses, and then I kind of explain what a hyperlapse is. They
Mm,
don't really understand what it is, but then when I do it, they're just blown away. So it's kind of like the cherry on top of just time lapses. And I have a couple motion control rails that I put my camera on to do time lapses. So the camera kind of moves a little bit in the time lapse, which makes it like super, super clean, super awesome,
right.
and a lot better than just like a static time lapse. So that's kind of like the middle range, a static time lapse, then a motion control time lapse, and then you do the hyperlapse, which go all the way down the street or like, half a mile if you have the right shot. And what I pretty much do is just take a step, take a picture, take a step, take a picture. And, you look on the ground for like tiles or something to keep you like in a straight line. And it just comes out smooth if you find the right setup.
I specifically remember that shot that you're talking about, going down the street about, and you said about a mile or something. Um, that is one of the most impressive. I say shot because it looks like it's one shot, but it's several shots. Your subject, your talent, your main talent is in the middle of the shot, and you're
Yeah.
going down the entire street for a long period of time. And the whole time I'm thinking, where are the cars? Like,
I know, we
are
were in
you
the middle of the street.
are you just standing there in the middle of the street, one step at a time for like a whole mile? Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's
Holy
what we
cow!
did. It was like 3 in the morning, so there weren't that many cars, and we had like 5 people with like flags and cones to make sure we were safe. That was actually me in the shot in San Francisco going down California Street,
Okay.
and my producer Roth was taking the photos behind me, and he was like sitting down on the ground. It was pretty funny.
What's the, in your opinion, what's the best technique to grab shots like that? Moving hyperlapses. I've heard that monopods usually do the trick.
Yeah, a lot of people use tripods, and
Okay.
that just takes forever, to set up the tripod every time. I do a lot just handheld, but yeah, a monopod definitely works the best. It's kind of, doing that repetitive motion so many times, your arm starts to get kind of sore. So using a monopod works really great as long as you have like a flat surface. And
Got it.
the key is to find like a path to like take your steps on. Like I said before, like tiles on California Street, we're using uh, the rails in the middle of the street for the trolleys, so that worked great.
Oh, okay.
And then when I have a subject in front of me, I use this like extendable pole every time we move to make sure the distance stays the same between us. So I grab that at Home Depot. It's like a $15 pole. It's used to screw in light bulbs that you can't reach. And I just took the light bulb thing off the top.
What other cool hyperlapse techniques are there for, and in general, nothing crazy. What are some other cool hyperlapse techniques that are not used in regular video making techniques?
It's really about like, I think like motion tracking. Some things, I would take the photos, making sure like the buildings in the middle of the frame every time. But now I kind of branched out and I start tracking like boats or random people on the beach, and then I track their heads so they're always in the middle of the frame, and it's just like this whole other crazy reality that, so it's just stuff that your eyes can't see naturally, when you speed it up and you track like a random subject. It's kind of
Right.
mind-blowing.
I heard, because I've seen some, YouTube channels on YouTube videos on how to do hyperlapses. I've never really tried one, but I've always found them so intriguing. It it seems like an overwhelming amount of work to even practice it, let alone actually do the job. But a technique I heard is very useful is to use markers on your actual monitor. If you're trying to move and, trying to keep a building in the shot, maybe having a marker and find a point in that building where that marker is always going to be on. Have you heard that at all?
I do that. No,
Okay.
yeah, I do it every time. So I just put the grid on my screen,
Okay.
and then it usually will line up something. So it's really just putting the grid on the LCD. That works great. I used to put like sticky dots on my screen or something, but I just got used to using the grid. It works perfectly.
Have you found a lot of competition in this arena of hyperlapsing?
I know a lot of people. We're all good friends that do time lapses and hyperlapses, and I know some great people that kind of do the same stuff I do all over the world.
I mean, it would make sense. That's, it's kind of sort of what you're into. So you look at other work that is similar.
Yeah, and we're all good friends. Like,
That's good.
everyone's really nice, and we share, all the information that we kind
Yeah,
of learn.
that's one awesome thing about, I think, our industry in general. Like, I don't think, like, I have a lot of friends that I work with. I hire them, they hire me, but we've never really felt like competitors, like I guess other industries would. That's always I find that interesting. My one of my buddies is having some great success, and I couldn't be more happier for him.
Yeah, we all have like these big group chats, and we always talk to each other. And then we kind of do some meetups here and now.
What are some misconceptions about hyperlapsing? Some general ideas that are out there that people float around that don't seem to be the case. Are there any? For example, I might be wrong when I said that it's an incredible amount of work, which is what kind of deters me from trying to even do it at all.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, like for me, it's really simple. How I make it simple is not using a tripod, handheld, and doing it super quick. So some people, it takes hours to get a shot that I do, but for me, it takes like 5-10 minutes to shoot. And then, the real magic is when you do the post-production in After Effects and you stabilize it. That's what really blows you away. Because when you shoot it, it's all over the place. It's just jittery, it's wonky, it's, all over the screen. But once you like track it, stabilize it, it's just butter.
Is there a specific plugin in After Effects that allows for like automatic tracking, or is it something you do manually?
I mean, a lot of people use warp stabilizer, but again, it doesn't really work well. It kind of like jitters in the corners, but After Effects has a tracking program built in. You just stabilize a position and a rotation, like a 2-point track, and everything just becomes super smooth. So yeah, a lot of people use warp stabilizer, and they should learn how to use 2-point tracking, which is kind of easy once you get the hang of it.
What features in a camera makes this process easier? Is it the higher megapixels? Is it a stabilized lens, body? Do you want more depth of field or less depth of field? Like what kind of things are you looking at to get a good sort of hyperlapse going?
It doesn't really, it's you don't really need a special camera or anything. The depth of field is really up to you. If you have like a foreground or something that you want to be kind of blurred out. And if you're like moving towards something, obviously you want your f-stop to be kind of high, so you don't have to like refocus your camera. But yeah, it's kind of easy. It really looks like a lot of work, and again, for some people it is, but for me, I could do a pretty long hyperlapse in like 20 minutes. I did one in China. It was like 600 shots. I think it took me probably like 25-30 minutes. But when I stabilized it, I had to do multiple tracks like over and over again. I think I did like 8 different tracks because there were foreground elements getting in the way of my tracking point. So I had to pick another tracking point, and I was going towards a building, and it had all these, lights, rooms that had lights on and off. So I would just, pick different rooms, the corner of the windows to track. Took a lot of time in post, but to shoot it, 25 minutes.
What's longer, the production or the post-production?
For me, it's definitely the post, because again, if you do it handheld, you could just whip it out super quick. Take a picture, step, take a picture, step, take a picture, step. But if you're doing like a long exposure one, you would have to set up a tripod, arrange the camera to be perfectly centered, and those take a lot more time. So I do those too. Those take 30 minutes to an hour probably to get a good 10-15 second hyperlapse.
Do you try to include some sort of hyperlapsing in all your videos or your work, or is it just basically what the client calls for? So like, for example, a client might want a very generic video. Would you always try to get them to agree to like some sort of hyperlapsing within the video?
Yeah, but then again, a lot of clients don't really understand what it is. I kind of just add that on top of the work, because I know even though they don't really understand it, I know they'll love it in the end.
So you do it without asking them?
Yeah, I mean, I'll get what they want, but then, I'll do that too.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any issues doing that?
No, not really.
That's good.
Because, I do the checklist, whatever they want, and then,
Right.
I'll bust some other creative stuff out.
But I'm sure you'll know that, hyperlapses are amazing, but maybe if the story that you're saying might be genuine and intimate and sweet, would you try to squeeze in a hyperlapse in there, or would it just not fit the story?
You have your scenes and everything, and it could be like a transition to another scene.
Okay.
So
I see.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a cut transition. I mean, you see that all the time. You see like B-roll shots. It's kind of like a B-roll shot.
So where can people find all your work?
I post a lot of stuff on Instagram. My name there is PermaGrinFilms. I have a YouTube channel, TikTok, Facebook and everything. But mainly Instagram is where I post everything.
And of course, I'll be putting all these links down below. I noticed recently that did your Instagram get hacked?
Yeah, it did.
Oh, man.
Last year. Yeah. I didn't have a two-factor identification set up. And I don't know, someone from like Istanbul took it and deleted all my videos and like 7,000 followers that I had. And then he tried to sell it as, an empty Instagram page with, 63,000 followers. And luckily I knew someone that knew someone at Instagram. It took like 2 months. I was pretty much losing my mind. It was the worst feeling ever. But yeah, I finally got it back. It was a big hassle, and oh my God, it felt so bad.
Man, sorry you went through
that. I just never thought that would happen. I'm sorry?
No, I'm sorry that you went through that. That must have been terrible.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's horrible.
So that's a good lesson to learn. If you guys don't have your two-factor authentication set up, do that now.
Yes.
I don't think I have.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
I had to go through like 50 hard drives to find all the videos that I posted. So in the end, I did a lot of arranging and cleaning up my hard drives and stuff. So, I mean, that's a plus for all the hassle.
Got it.
Now I have stuff better arranged on my hard drives and stuff.
That's fantastic. That's good that you were able to get that back. It's good news. Well, I'll definitely sorry, go ahead.
And another plus point was a lot of people like the behind the scenes of each shot that I do. And fortunately, when I shoot a lot of stuff, I have behind the scenes footage and videos. I'm starting to post that with my videos that I lost and actually people like the behind the scenes more than the actual video. So yeah,
Yeah,
get way more views.
Yep, I know that very, very well. I
Yeah.
pretty much only post behind the scenes. I hardly ever post final products anymore because people,
Yeah.
the reaction to the final product is it's not as much as the behind the scenes.
Yeah. So for Dream Music, we have a whole behind the scenes video.
That's awesome.
On YouTube, and Imagination also has a behind the scenes. I Left My Heart has a behind the scenes. So yeah, we pretty much shoot a bunch of behind the scenes when we shoot anything. Yeah. That's crazy. And I have a bunch of GoPros to just set up, when we do stuff. So it's pretty easy to get all the behind the scenes.
Nice. Yeah, I remember the Imagination video. That one was very trippy. But so I was mesmerized just watching it.
Well, I was too. Yeah. It was fun just, playing with toys and stuff. And we had this kid that was super fun to hang out with.
Nice. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'll be putting links to all these videos, your Instagram and your website where everybody could find you on the show notes for this episode. Dude, thank you so much for taking the time and being patient with all the technical issues before getting on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. No problem.
So there's my conversation with Marc Donahue. I hope you guys found that enjoyable, insightful, and maybe makes you motivated to go out and shoot a time lapse. I always find those videos very, very interesting. If you want to link to all the stuff that we spoke about, you can find them in the show notes for this episode. If you haven't seen Marc's work, you could also watch this podcast on our YouTube channel over at iFilmmaker Podcast and see everything that we were referencing, going down the street for a whole mile in the middle of the street in San Francisco. That was very, very interesting. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this episode. Don't forget to comment if you have any questions. Leave us a review over on iTunes. That really helps us, and we appreciate that very, very much. And again, links are all down below. And if you find this episode was helpful to you or any other episode on this podcast, would you consider sharing it with someone, letting them know that this stuff exists? So we appreciate that very, very much. I think that's the best compliment that you guys can give us on this show. Also, comments and criticisms are always welcomed, with love, of course. So we'll see you on the next episode of the iFilmmaker Podcast. My name's Ariel Martinez.